Welcome to the Stuff and Things Podcast. Your home for all stuff related to your favorite things in entertainment. Now, here are your hosts.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Stuff and Things podcast. I am Sam. We're talking about Stranger Things Season 2 today. So joining me once again to talk all things Stranger Things is my daughter. It's Phoebe.
Hi.
Hello again, kid. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
We are talking about Season 2. And Season 2 was made up of 9 episodes. Which is one more episode than what was in Season 1. Tradition on this podcast is I say, and the title of the episode was, with it being 9 episodes, how many of them do you think you know or remember?
Probably 1 or 2, but I don't know which one they go with.
Okay, alright, so tell me, right, so we've got 9 episodes to choose from. Try and give me some of the episode titles.
Do I have to say which one it belongs to?
No, just try and I'll tell you if you get them right.
Okay, I think the first one is called Mad Max.
Absolutely right. Episode 1 of the season is called Mad Max. Yeah.
There's one, and it's like Will the Wise?
Episode 4 is called Will the Wise. You are correct.
4.
When I read the others to you, I think you'll...
Yeah.
So, episode 1 is Mad Max. Episode 2 is called Trick or Treat Freak. Episode 3, The Pollywog. Episode 4 is Will the Wise, if you remember it. Episode 5, Dig Dug.
Dig Dug.
Episode 6 is The Spy. Episode 7, The Lost Sister. Episode 8, The Mind Flayer. And Episode 9, The Gate. So we're going to dive in. We're going to sort of wander through Season 2 together, picking out bits. But straight away, in Episode 1, we see a robbery that's happening and there's a van full of teenagers. And we see straight away that one of these teens, just like 11, has abilities. Now, you spotted something in this, which I missed, both the first time and the second time of watching it. The second time I blame the fact that I had to write notes. But you notice that this particular person had something.
I don't remembering that. Oh yeah, the number. Oh, what was it? 8?
Yeah, so it had a tattoo, just like 11,
yeah.
Number 8, yeah. So we see this group of teens and we see her use this ability where she basically creates an illusion.
But it's only for like one person.
Yeah.
So one of the police cars would stop and everyone's like, what are you doing? But they thought the bridge collapsed.
Yeah, you're exactly right. We see all the boys and they're at an arcade together. We see that the world, so all the boys are there, Will and everybody. It is an arcade. It's very 80s, by the way. That was very much a thing to do in the 80s, yeah. And Will is there, and we actually see Will again see the Upside Down. So straight away, episode 1 of the season.
Still linked.
It's still linked. It's all still there. Throughout this sort of start, we get introduced to new characters. One of the characters we get introduced to fairly early on, he appears to be a bit of a conspiracy theorist. He's called Murray.
Murray!
You do like Murray, don't
you? I do.
And we're also introduced to Billy, who arrives at the high school. Now, Billy is sort of Steve Harrington's age.
Yeah.
And he appears to have a younger sister, who appears to be a half-sister or a step-sister. And that is Max. Now, the title of the episode is Mad Max.
Yeah.
So, she gets introduced to the boys at the school. They immediately assume this is Mad Max because when they're at the arcade, they see one of the video games. The top score is now Mad Max and not Dustin, who seems heartbroken by this. We also meet Bob.
Oh,
Bob. Bob is dating Joyce, who's Will's mum. But yeah, we like Bob. Bob seems nice. We also meet a Dr. Sam Owens. So basically, Joyce and Hopper are taking Will to see a doctor at Hawkins' lab. So this is all established in episode 1, and that doctor is Dr. Sam Owens. And Will is having to go there on a regular basis for tests. He talks about how he sees things still and has these moments.
And feels things.
Yeah, and feels things. And he talks about like that moment at the arcade where he felt like he was back in the Upside Down.
And he calls it like feeling like evil or something.
You're exactly right. But the doctor there seems to dismiss it as PTSD.
Yeah.
Post-traumatic stress syndrome. So basically what he's saying is these things aren't happening, but because of the trauma he's endured, he feels like it is. So a question for you at this stage, because I think having watched season 2, I don't think Dr. Sam Owens is a bad guy.
No.
I think the doctor, who's also known as Papa in season 1, not a good guy.
Brenner,
Dr. Brenner. But Dr. Owens doesn't appear to be that.
No.
But do you think he's therefore being a bit naive and thinking it's PTSD, or is he trying to cover it up?
I feel like he is trying to cover it up, but he still wants to help Will. Because if he didn't, he wouldn't do anything at all. He'd just dismiss it and not see him again.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. So that is what's going on there. And Nancy and Steve are together still.
But the relationship's a little bit...
It's definitely a little bit strained. And mostly because obviously we know that Nancy and Jonathan had sort of like a moment together. But Nancy and Steve are together and they visit Barb's parents. The kind of Justice for Barb movement continues on.
Yeah.
This is how we get a kind of second introduction to Murray, because previously we've seen him speaking to Hopper, and that's our first introduction. But then with Barb's parents, they're talking about how they're selling up, they're raising money, they're doing things to pay this guy Murray who is going to try and find their daughter. Nancy excuses herself to go to the bathroom, is crying, very upset. She obviously knows that Barb is gone, but cannot tell Barb's parents.
Yeah.
It's a tough scene, to be honest with you. But Barb's parents obviously aren't giving up. They want their daughter back.
Yeah.
Even if Nancy was to start blurting things out, I don't think they'd believe her. I mean, who'd believe that story?
Yeah, true.
Mike is missing 11, and he's been trying to radio her for over 350 days at the same time, constantly doing it. And then we see in episode 1 that Hopper goes out to a cabin in the middle of nowhere, and 11 is there. 11 with hair, which is a big difference.
Short hair.
Yeah, short hair, but with hair, and is living with Hopper out in the middle of nowhere.
Dun dun dun.
I mean, that is, like I said, a real bullet points, brisk walk through episode 1. Okay, this brings us on to episode 2. Start of episode 2, we get a flashback from 11's point of view, and it's how she's ended up with Hopper. Now, these flashbacks actually happen throughout this episode and various other episodes throughout the whole season, but they are quite important kind of backstory, so we'll kind of talk about it now a little bit. I'm still not entirely sure how she ended up with Hopper. Like, we've watched all of season 2, we've seen all of the flashbacks, but there's one thing that I'm not sure about, which is we see her in the Upside Down after taking out the Demogorgon at the end of season 1.
Yeah.
And she's in the Upside Down of the school, and there's like a opening she can come through, which I think is the opening the Demogorgon came through.
Yeah.
And she can hear Hopper the other side. But when she does manage to break through, she's on her own. So, how does Hopper become aware of her? How does that... Like, none of that really plays out, because basically he keeps leaving food in the woods in, like, this box for her. She keeps going to get it, but we don't know how he actually knew she was there. I mean, was he just taking a chance? What do you think?
Well, I feel like maybe, because when he was in the Upside Down at the end, he kept, like, looking around, so maybe he saw... I don't know. about like time when it happened, about when she was there, or anything. So maybe something to do with that, or maybe it was just a kind of he didn't know where she was, and the fact that the food was disappearing in a very random space. It wasn't like it was just out, it was in like a box.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I mean though. He was doing that deliberately, almost like he was waiting to see if she was there.
Yeah.
So perhaps he had a suspicion. He did that when the food kept going. He kept doing it, and eventually she showed herself to him.
Yeah.
And then obviously he had this cabin that used to belong to his grandmother, I think he said.
Yeah.
So that's where that comes from. At this point of the podcast, I do also want to bring in my first and favourite co-host. I can't say favourite anymore. You're my favourite, obviously. But Alfie is the person I started this podcast with. He lives in the good old US of A, and Alfie answers questions from me and Phoebe based on whether the show is depicting it accurately of 80s America. And the question I've actually got for him, because it's very alien to me and to you, I imagine, is, Alfie, do the kids actually wear Halloween costumes to school there? Is that a thing? Does that happen? Is it tradition? Was it something that happened in the 80s? To me, completely alien. Let me know, buddy.
Sam and Phoebe, what is going on? All right, so the question this time is, in the U.S., is it tradition for kids to wear Halloween costumes at school? Was this an 80 things? Still happen? So yeah, in the 80s, it wasn't quite like it's depicted in the show, where it was just the kids just kind of did it on their own. We had actual like contest, I guess, in school, where you would, the teachers would tell you, hey, this is dress up day, dress up. And they would kind of judge it and give out different awards and stuff. And I remember this very vividly because a rich preppy kid, his mom actually handmade him the most amazing E.T. costume that was, it was something that was like Disney level. To buy something like that today would be $300 or $400. So I remember it. Today, it kind of, most schools do like a theme week, and each day is a different theme, and they usually do it right around Halloween. But I think they do that so that kids aren't wearing like super outrageously scary or inappropriate type things. But anyway, hope that helps. Hope everything's well on your side of the pond. Talk to you guys later. That's a wrap.
Thanks, Alfie, mate. I appreciate that. So I've just got bullet points, really, from this episode. 'Cause like I said, we're just trying to walk our way through. So I'm going to do the bullet points. Dustin and Lucas are both crushing on Max.
Yeah.
I think crushing on is a nice way of putting it. Hawkins Lab are doing experiments again. And the Hawkins Lab, we see now that they are doing burns, which is basically they're trying to stop the spread of whatever this is coming through from the upside down.
Yeah.
And they notice fire is the only thing that works, so they're doing burns on a regular basis. Separate to that, Hopper is confronted by an angry farmer who believes another farmer has poisoned his pumpkins. And the pumpkins are dying, rotting. It's a hideous smell.
Straight away then, though, I knew it wasn't going to be like a petty poison thing.
Yeah.
It's Stranger Things. It's going to be linked to...
It's going to be something strange.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. I think the way the show works, I think it was obvious there was going to be more to it. But yeah, at this particular stage, it's a kind of like mystery. The thing that I like about it is in season 1, Hopper would have dismissed all of this. Hopper would have just been, tell so-and-so to stop poisoning your pumpkins, and just wouldn't have bothered going.
But since what's happened...
Yeah, his worldview's far broader now. Billy is driving along with Max, and we have probably one of the most intense scenes we see, where he's driving full pelt in his car and drives at the boys. My note here is just Billy's an asshole.
Yeah.
subtle note that it is. We see the boys at school. I mentioned earlier on when I asked Alfie, They all go dressed as Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
We have a fun moment where no one wants to be Winston, which I think is a little bit harsh because I always thought Winston was cool. But yeah, they're out trick-or-treating, and Will has a really, really bad episode whilst he's out. Now, one of the key things in this is that Will was entrusted with a video camera. A very, very 80s video camera, I have to say. And that was from Bob. Bob's video camera, yeah. We like Bob.
But also, Jonathan was meant to be with him, but he kind of was like, look, I know you're unhappy, so be safe, I won't come with you. So we could go with the party. So
what's your thoughts on that? Because Jonathan, is he being a good big brother there, or a crappy big brother?
I feel like he's trying to be a good brother with benefits, because it benefits himself, because as much as he's like, oh, I don't want to go to the party that Nancy's like kind of invited him to, I guess, he does, because he's not really been to a party before, because he's a bit weird. He's a bit
odd.
He's a bit odd, strange child.
Yeah.
But so he wants to go, so he's like, this benefits me, and it makes me seem like a good brother to you.
We do have a very funny jump scare where Mad Max makes the four boys jump out of their damn skin, which is quite good. So that happens. The four boys. Will has this really bad episode. He drops the camera to the ground, and Will, it feels like he's in the upside down being chased, and he runs away. Mike finds him, calms him down, and Mike takes him home. A key to remember about the camera, though, that is very key. So it kept recording the whole time. At that house party you mentioned with Jonathan, Nancy gets absolutely hammered drunk. She is really struggling with the Barb thing, really struggling. And she tells Steve she doesn't love him. She really hurts Steve, to be honest with you.
She keeps saying...
Yeah.
Actually, I'm not going to repeat that. I don't want to get told off.
You're not gonna repeat that. You will get told off. So she does keep repeating bad words, and Steve, Steve's really hurt. And the thing is about this is when you first meet Steve in season 1 early episodes, you don't ever imagine that you'd really care for him that much. But he hasn't done a lot wrong with Nancy, really.
No.
And it's one of those things that just isn't working between them. We get to see that 11 is missing Mike. In episode 1 we saw how much Mike was missing her, and now it's the other way round as well.
Yeah.
And also at the end of the episode, Dustin finds something in a trash can. Now I've put in brackets dart because we know what's coming. I did have a note here, so I'm going to ask you the question. Do you think the creature that Dustin finds is what Will threw up at the end of season 1?
Well, from what I know from future episodes, is like, because he threw up a slug. Like, it looked like a little upside down beast slug thing. What slight, not spoiler, because we're doing the whole thing.
Yeah.
But when we first see Dart, it's a little slug with legs.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Nope.
And it's like the same kind of beast. So it's definitely from the upside down.
Yeah.
Bill threw something up from the upside down. So unless it's come all the way from Hawkins' lab, it's probably the slug.
No, I'd agree with that. So things carry on. Bob tells Joyce that he saw Will get bullied on his video camera. He mentions the camera's got a little bit of damage where someone's dropped it, but Bob's still being pretty cool though. Bob's pretty laid back. So that wouldn't have been a cheap bit of kit back then either. That would have been a lot of money's worth.
Doesn't he run like a kind of radio?
I think he's a manager in Radio Shack, which again is a very 80s thing that you just would not have any clue about. So to stop myself from feeling ridiculously old, we're just going to move on from that. But like you said, he mentions being bullied. She watches the tape, however, and realised that the form of static on the tape is making a shape. Not only is it making a shape, it's actually in the form of one of his drawings.
Which he just brushed off as, it's...
Yeah, he brushed off as like I'm creating a character for, games I'm playing, or, he just really brushed it off. But she spots it, she realises what it is. Again,
she traces it on the TV.
She does, yeah.
And
very,
then matches it.
Very clever. Now, I've kind of put a bullet point in this, and I know I bring it up a few times when me and you watched it.
Yeah.
Joyce is very smart.
Yeah.
Because you think about season 1 with the Christmas lights, that was real lateral thinking. That was real outside of the box stuff. And then here we are again.
I'm not saying she's dumb at like stuff, but like it's not even common sense. It's just kind of, I don't know. It's like
it's looking at it's simplifying the complicated. She's looking at this and is and approaching it from a simplistic way, and is able to understand what's going on. I mean, in season 1, it was just her belief in her very being that her son was still alive. In season 2, it is probably largely down to the event she's witnessed, the fact she knows all of this is real, and she then goes for it. 11 breaks the don't be stupid rule, and she's cross with Hopper, and she goes to the school. And when she goes to the school, she sees Mike talking with Max. They're having just like a bit of a chat about being on a skateboard. I think Max says she wants to be a Zoomer, part of their party.
That's when Mike mentions 11, but she's like, who's 11? And he's like, someone that was in our party a long time ago. And he describes 11 as their mage.
Yep, you're absolutely right. But she sees Mike with another girl and reacts like every teenage girl and takes vengeance. But she has powers, and so she makes her fall off her skateboard. But
Mike kind of goes, wait, why has that happened? Turns around, but she's gone.
Yeah, Mike has a feeling he might know why that happened, but yeah, she's gone. Bob thinks Will is having nightmares, so tells him to stand and yell to go away.
Oh, Bob.
Bob is doing his absolute best, but doesn't know anything that's happened. He doesn't know these things are real.
They've not told him.
No, he is not aware at all. And so when he does this, in his head, he's thinking he's being helpful. In reality, Will does end up in the Upside Down again, and a dark cloud seems to just take him over. It goes inside him through his mouth, his eyes.
And it's the cloud in the drawings and on the tape. It's like a shadow. I think he calls it like the shadow
monster. Yeah, you're exactly right. Dustin takes young Dart to school. It escapes and he hides it from the others. So he takes it in. The others believe it's from the Upside Down.
But they exclude Max.
Yeah, but of course they do exclude Max. Yes, thank you. That's a very, very good point. Well done.
Thank you.
Glad you're here. But the thing escapes at the school. They're all hunting it, but Dustin finds it first and keeps it from the others to keep it safe. Jonathan and Nancy try to arrange to meet Barb's mother, but the Hawkins lab and government listen in and they show up at the meeting to take them to the lab.
They appear to have this room where they listen to everyone's phone calls, which is kind of scary.
Very scary. But we saw that a little bit in season 1.
Yeah.
And we've seen it in season 2. Now, they knew that, and it would appear that they planned that. Because they made that phone call to Barb's mother, and then they got captured, but whilst they were captured, they made a recording. Dr. Sam Owens is very kind to them, really. He talks to them, he explains everything to them, explains why it needs to remain a secret, explains what they're trying to do, shows them around, and then lets them leave. And it's only when he lets them leave that they have the recording.
Yeah.
And you realise, oh wow, they set the whole thing up.
Because you can see them waiting in the park, they see the people waiting, and they're like, come on, let's make it look like we're running.
Yeah, you're exactly right. The next bullet point is now, since that moment with Will in the field, it appears that he is connected to whatever the creature is in the Upside Down. 11 finds her mum's details in amongst Hopper's things. Hopper had told her that her mum was gone. Now, mentally maybe, but when 11 finds these things and she's already mad at Hopper, she goes, she's off.
Bye.
The repair, like I said, Dustin finds Dart eating his cat.
But Dart is not little Dart.
Not little Dart anymore. Dart keeps evolving, so he sheds his skin and gets bigger and bigger every time. Yeah. So he's gone from being like, an oversized slug to being the size of like a sort of mouse, rat, then now he's probably a small dog sort of size, but the next time he sheds again, he's going to be a lot bigger. Joyce gets Will to draw what he is seeing, and it ends up becoming this absolute long, crazy ass thing.
At the beginning, it's like he's actually scribbling on a page, but then because she gets Hopper around eventually.
She does. Hopper sees it and realizes that this is what is linked to the rotten vegetable fields. And he, I mean, quite funny it is. I mean, it basically says Hopper goes and digs a hole. That's my bullet point. But Hopper goes to investigate to see if what Will is drawing is, in essence, an underground map.
Like a tunnel system.
Yeah, he digs the hole and he drops down into it, and the camera angle moves to make it appear that he's upside down. So it signifies that what he is in the upside down. It is part of this. Mike goes to see Will, and Will is in an absolute bad way, sensing the shadow monster. He sees Hopper, who is trapped in the tunnel, and Hopper's trapped. He is really, screwed. Big problems. Yeah, screwed. He tells Mike, he tells his mum that Hopper's in trouble, and they are just trying to work out, what the hell to do. Dustin, meanwhile, is trying to trap Dart.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but you ate my cat, is a line that he says.
Yeah.
11 finds her mother at this point and is able to communicate with her. That was quite an interesting thing. So 11 goes to find her mother, and her mother is trapped in this kind of vegetative, repetitive state.
Yeah.
And she's reciting certain words.
I think it's like rainbow, like it's like 3 to the left, 4 to the right, and when 11's looking through kind of like her mind, she sees that like it's the rainbow room,
where she was kept,
like
at the
where
lab,
she like a safe where she got a gun,
you're absolutely right. So all of these things that she's repeating and reciting are in essence her core memories from trying to find 11. 11 does uncover, and amongst all of this, that her mother was electrocuted, electrotherapy. She was literally, Dr. Brenner and one other fried her mind, and that's why she's in this state, which is pretty awful.
Yeah.
So continuing on, Joyce has to bring Bob in. Bob is there, doesn't know what's going on at all, and Joyce shows Bob all of Will's drawings. And Bob's a smart cookie. Bob works out that this is a drawing of a map of Hawkins, and they've got them all over the house. You think of season 1 with the Christmas lights.
Imagine that over every room.
Yeah, over every room,
paper.
All of these paper all put together, all these drawings.
Surprised they have that much paper in their house. I mean, I know it's like different colours and like scraps of stuff, but that is a lot of paper.
Yeah, definitely a lot. Dustin runs into Steve, and I've written here the bromance begins. Basically, these two are probably my favourite characters that spend time together. He basically tells Steve all about what he's doing, trying to track down Dart, and he enlists Steve to help him. Lucas, meanwhile, tells Max everything. So Bob's been brought into the fold, and now Mad Max has been brought into the fold, and she doesn't believe him. Lucas sets it up at an arcade so he can talk to her. She basically says, this is a great story, whatever. So that's evolving. She's not quite sure. Nancy and Jonathan go to Murray, and they play him the recording and tell him everything that they know. Murray has a plan, basically, to come up with, has a plan to
like send the tape to big newspapers.
Loads of newspapers and expose the story. But what he said is that this is too big. If you tell people the truth, people would just think it's made up and they can deny it. So we need to create a lie that they can't deny so we get justice. So they create a lie that basically the lab had a leak which killed Barb, and they covered it up. And that way, and they send it off to everyone using this recording as evidence. So Dr. Sam Owen, who's generally seemed to be quite a decent guy so far, Brenner is going to get taken down by Murray and Nancy and Jonathan. Nancy and Jonathan also get confronted by Murray about their relationship, basically mocking them that they're in denial about each other.
Yeah.
And they spend the night together. So they're kind of a thing now. The Hawkins lab government show up when they're trying to find Hopper. So Bob and they've headed out there. They've managed to dig him away. I think it's actually Joyce who uses a knife to cut Hopper free.
Yeah.
And the lab show up. Mike points where they are, and they start to do a burn. Now, as they're doing that burn, Will drops to the floor, shaking and screaming like he's in agony.
Now, it's everyone else there that's like, what's going on?
Yeah.
But we know that this thing's inside
He's
of
in
him.
him. He's linked to him. I've written down. I mean, I've got down here because obviously you're an actor yourself.
Yeah.
Would that be fun to do, or do you think that would be really difficult to do? That sort of scene where you drop and you just have to basically scream and shake around like a lunatic in front of all these people.
It would be fun, but it would be so draining. Like, you'd get not bored of it, but it would, like, if you want to do it well, you've got to get yourself into it, which is like not only draining physically, but that's going to be really like tiring
mentally. And also, I mean, from your experience, typically you do it once, everyone tells you how great it was, but then you have to do it again.
Yeah, and
again and again. So, you know, big compliments to him.
Yeah, well done, Noah.
This takes us on to episode 6, where we see Will is rushed into a hospital / the hospital at Hawkins lab.
Yeah, not a normal hospital.
No, not just a regular hospital. Will is still screaming in pain. We as the audience have pretty much worked this out, because we know of the link, but they don't at this
Isn't
point.
it in an earlier episode where Will says, like, he doesn't like the cold or something like that?
Yeah.
No, he likes it cold.
He likes it cold, yeah. Steve and Dustin go to where Dustin trapped Dart previously, but all they find is a bigger shed skin
and a hole in the
wall, which is very worrying. So there is a big ass creature out there that ate a cat. Should also say at this point as well, I feel a bit sorry for Dustin's mum, who loved that cat.
Yeah, what was the cat's name? Muse.
Murray, Nancy and Jonathan make the copies of the recording and send it out to everybody. Will wakes up, but his memory is all over the place. They do loads of tests which show he is linked to the creature. There's that one very visceral test where they have part of the creature
and they burn it in a tank next to him.
And he feels it. He really feels it, like they're doing it to him. Steve, Dustin, Lucas and Max are laying a trap at a scrapyard for Dart. So this team have now come together, and Dustin is a little bit put out because Lucas and Max are now clearly getting a lot closer.
But he's also a bit annoyed that Max has been told. I don't think it's so much the fact that, she's been told, but the fact that Lucas has done it, not him.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. There's a little bit of jealousy there. Problem with crushing on people. Will tells the doctors where to go to get the shadow monster, and the soldiers head there. But it's a trap. Will is actually being manipulated by this creature, showing a remarkable intelligence. The soldiers do go down into this place, and they're confronted by the demi-dogs, which is basically what Dart has become, and they rip them apart.
So that means that there were loads of those things in the Upside Down.
Will threw up 3 or so, didn't he? When he was pellets, but we don't know how many others were there, but there was definitely more than one.
Yeah. So
we know of Dart, and there are now a lot. We then have a situation where Steve fights a demi-dog, but then they retreat. They
retreat to these underground caves.
It's kind of crazy. Episode 5 actually takes us back to 11. So we've had all of this building up, and then episode 7 to 11. You can see why I got confused. Episode 7 is what we call a bottle episode. So in essence, you've got storyline building episode to episode, but then this one is completely separate. It's on its own. Yeah. It's in a bottle.
I mean, it is linked, but we don't know how at this point.
No.
Because they wouldn't just do 2 storylines without linking it.
Well, you'd say that. You should watch some of the shows I watch. So episode 7 takes us back to 11 and her story. She is trying to find 8. which we saw in the very opening of episode 1 with that tattoo. Her auntie tries to call Hopper on her, but 11 hears her do that and runs away. She's now in Chicago, Illinois. Or sorry, she's just in Illinois, she's not Chicago. She's in Illinois, and she does manage to meet up with 8, who is in a gang. She introduces them a bit like D&D party, which I find kind of funny. Like, Funshine is the warrior, etc. Funshine, by the way, is the name of a Care Bear. And that guy is huge. So I kind of find that as a funny nickname. 8 wants 11 to help her to track down the bad people.
Guys,
basically realising that 11's abilities are to track people. The big difference is 8 wants to track them down so she can kill them.
Yeah.
Now 11, of course, as we know, has killed the bad men. You know, she has killed to save her life.
But often in self-defence, not going out of her way to
hunt people,
mess people up.
11 gets a bitching new look. What do you think about 11's new look?
I prefer her hair like that. When it's like in this kind of middle length, I like it slicked back.
Yeah, that's fair. But her and this gang go looking for the guy who electrocuted 11's mother.
So that's the other one we saw.
That is the other one we saw in the vision. 8 wants to kill him, but 11 stops short of doing it, and then also stops 8 from doing it.
Because she sees a photo of him with kids. And
and the kids are there.
But they've called the cops.
Yeah, and they've called the police, and obviously they then try and run away. The police track the gang down, and, 11 can sense that Hopper's in danger, so she wants to leave. 8 wants her to go with her, but 8 and the gang get away under police gunfire. 11 goes her own way. What did you think about 8? Because it's difficult. You can completely understand why she's angry, why she's out for revenge. Do you think it's a case of 8 is falling in with a bad group and that's why she's the way she is, whereas 11, who could have easily gone that way herself because she was around Mike, around Hopper, has more of a sense of right and wrong and trying to do good?
That probably has had an impact on it, but I don't know. I feel like number 8 has got out earlier than she has, because she seems more aware of the actual world.
She seems older.
Yeah, she does seem older. Although in the flashbacks they look the same age. That has confused me a bit.
Well, when they're younger, a couple of years between someone who's 5 and someone who's 3 might not look that massive, whereas someone who's 18 and someone who's 15, the difference can look staggering.
Yeah.
Or, 13 and 10. But one thing that does happen is she does get away. 8 and that gang we do see them get away. I mean, they are being chased.
So what happens to them?
Exactly. Will we see? And also, one of them's called 11, one of them's called 8. It does stand to reason there are other children numbered out there, which we don't know anything about right now. Okay, alright, well that's out there. That's still a thing. But like I said, 11 could definitely sense that Hopper and co were in danger. And so she leaves to head back to Hawkins, to her friends, to her home. Now, episode 8 kind of goes back to where number 6 left off, with the demi-dogs attacking Hawkins' lab. Soldiers and scientists are being ripped apart. Mike tells Joyce to put Will to sleep as he is a spy.
Not sleep as in
sleep. Not putting to sleep like a vet would put an animal to sleep. I'm talking literally to sleep. Put him out, knock him out, because he's a spy, and whilst he's awake, they're going to know everywhere they are. So Joyce does that, which couldn't have been an easy thing to do. Joyce, Bob and Hopper, with Will, Mike and Dr. Sam Owens, are basically trying to escape the lab with these demi-dogs, just ripping everyone a new one.
But Bob does still, he's still new. He still doesn't... They've not told him everything.
They've not told him everything, but, I mean... The thing I'd say about Bob is he's really going with this. He's all on board. He clearly cares a great deal for Joyce and the family. Bob's a good guy.
Yeah.
Inside the lab, there's a real intense kind of horror movie type vibe. The lights flickering, the kind of suspense action.
It's almost like what it... Well, no, it's not almost like... It is what it was like at the start of season 1 when the guy was just running through the corridors.
Yeah, you're exactly
right. The lab's
right.
been taken over.
Yeah, the lab has been taken over by these demi-dogs that are killing everyone. Away from that, we do actually see a moment where we meet Billy's dad, and we get a little bit of insight into why Billy is so messed up. Dad's a real bully.
Yeah.
And is really, really horrible
Abusive.
to Billy. Very, very strong in terms of, getting in his face about Max not being at home. Yeah. Now, we know Max is with Steve, with, the others,
Lucas.
and they're trying to get back from the scrapyard. But Max, Billy doesn't know any of this, Billy's dad doesn't know any of this, and Billy is sent out to find her. That, as a side note, is a nightmare. Inside the lab, like I said, everything's going crazy. Outside again, Nancy and Jonathan arrive at the lab, and they actually meet up with Dustin, Lucas, Max, and Steve. Steve seeing Nancy and Jonathan, that's wonderful for him.
Awkward.
Bob gets to the power inside the lab because he needs to reactivate it to get the doors to open because they're sealed. He does so, opening the doors and the computers, and the others are able to escape. Dr. Sam Owens stays behind to guide Bob out via, a walkie-talkie to tell him when to walk, when not to walk.
A few close calls as well.
A few close calls, really suspenseful, and then he finally gets to the foyer up with everybody else, and just as Bob is smiling at Joyce, he's taken down and ripped apart by demi-dogs.
Yeah, so close. He shouldn't have stopped. He ran and then he stopped. That moment where he stopped, he could have escaped. Damn it, Bob.
Damn it, Bob. It's pretty sad, to be honest with you. Bob's a really nice guy, a really fun character.
He didn't do anything. He helped.
He helped, just a really helpful, nice guy, and he got eaten. He got really, really messed up. Which, yeah, that was pretty sad, actually. I was kind of sad when Bob went. I felt he was the kind of
He was just normal.
Yeah, just a real normal, nice guy. But like I said, he made it to the lobby and they're killed, and Joyce sees it. Joyce literally gets to witness it firsthand right in front of her. Hopper gets her out, they get outside, and all of them now across 2 vehicles get away. Dr. Sam Owens stayed behind, he's still in the lab, but Hopper and everyone, they get the hell out of there and they go back to the buyer's house. Now, Dustin now is trying to explain things. Now, much like with season 1, he explains things in the terms of D&D,
yep.
And he says it's like having a hive mind, the shadow monster. We liken it to a thing called the Mind Flayer.
And the not funny, but like the thing that I find interesting, same with the Demogorgon, what they compare it to, the image in the D&D book is like this cartoony, funny, character, but what it is, like it's got like...
The description works.
Yeah.
But the imagery very different, but they make a plan to wake Will up, but they want to do it in a location. They choose the shed where they can completely blank it so he doesn't know where he is.
So he can't spy.
So he can't reveal their location. They do that, they wake him up and they try and speak to him, and they notice, or Hopper notices, that Will, while speaking as this Mind Flayer, is tapping on the chair. Now, something
we forgot to mention earlier was the kind of Morse code system that Hopper and Elle have.
That's true. Yeah. Elle is taught Morse code by Hopper,
so that no one can. I mean, the lab, if they wanted to, could decipher what they're saying. Yeah. If they had a way
Well, they could if they were doing it, but they did have a very complicated system. But he's tapping Morse code, and he's basically letting them know that he's there. He is still in there. It's not completely gone. He communicates that, and the phone rings, and when the phone rings, it gives away their position, and he has tapped out close gate. But he's given away the position. The demi-dogs are now circling the house. Everyone's inside the house panicking. Hopper hands a gun out. He hands it to Nancy because Nancy's the best shot. Everyone's kind of getting ready. They're all freaking out. And then all of a sudden, one of the windows smashes and a demi-dog comes flying through it, but is dead. and there's silence outside. All the other demi-dogs have run. And then the door opens. 11 is back.
Woo!
Looking bitchin'.
Woo!
Like a badass. 11's reunited with Mike, but kind of gives him a little bit of cold shoulder to Max.
Yeah.
Mike also, by the way, at this point has a real go at Hopper, because obviously Hopper knew that 11 was alive the whole time. We know that Billy is out looking for Max. This is all sort of things that are going on, and Mike's mother, who Billy tries to charm, sends him to the buyer's house. So we know that he is on the way there, and at this point the group now split. Hopper and 11 are heading to the lab. They are going to try and close the gate. Joyce, Nancy and Jonathan take Will to Hopper's cabin in the woods. They are going to try and burn it out of him because, like you said earlier, he likes the cold.
And so the theory that they're
going to turn the heat up.
Because he's a host. He's not, the creature. He's a host. So the theory is
they're going to try and drive the creature out of him.
Yeah.
Steve, Max, Lucas, Dustin and Mike remain at the buyer's house with Steve in charge as, chief babysitter.
Yeah.
The best babysitter.
Yes.
Billy shows up at the house, and we have this funny scene where basically he shows up, Steve comes outside and says, "No one's there, what are you talking about?" But over his shoulder, Max and Dustin are spying out the window and everyone can see them. And Billy goes, "Then why is my sister looking at me through the window?
Yeah.
What the hell is going on?" There's a massive confrontation and a fight between Steve and Billy, which has been kind of brewing for a while. Billy gets the upper hand and, is kind of winning that fight. Steve gets his ass kicked again. I don't think we've seen Steve win a fight.
No.
Steve needs to win a fight at some point. But Max uses the syringe that they took from Hawkins' lab on Will to sedate Billy, and then threatens him with the bat with the nails in it.
That
Max,
Steve made in season 1.
Max went crazy. Badass. They then, because Steve has been knocked out, utilise the time of him not being able to say no, and they drive Billy's car, who's still sedated at the buyer's house, to the tunnels. Their plan is to get to the tunnels and try and create as much havoc to draw the demi-dogs from the lab to let 11 close the gate.
But because Steve was saying no earlier to leaving, he's like, "No, I've been told to keep you safe. You're not leaving." And then he's knocked out, so they're like,
so they do it anyway. Would that be what you do? You're around their age. Do you think that would be your plan? Yeah.
But I wouldn't take him. They took Steve as well.
Oh right. Well, I think they were worried about him. He did take one hell of a beating. Probably didn't want to leave him there with Billy again.
True.
Will is being overheated. They crank the heat up on him, and it is working.
But Jonathan is like, "Stop it!" But no, Joyce is determined.
Joyce is determined, and it's actually finally, I think it's like Nancy with like a hot poker, finally drives it out of him. Yeah. And it does work. It's gone. And over the radio, they tell Hopper, "It's done. It's out of him. You can close the gate." Hopper and 11 are back at the lab, and they find Dr. Owen, who is in a bad way.
Yeah, not as bad as Bob.
No. Bob's dead. Bob's been eaten. Dr. Owen has a bad bite on his leg, and Hopper helps strap it up. But Hopper also then introduces him to 11. Dr. Owen has a look on his face of like, really?
Now.
Really? And Hopper's just like, "Yeah, she's here. She's going to help us. Shut your mouth," kind of thing.
Yeah, maybe after she does help us, she'll consider...
Yeah, helping her. Hopper then is protecting 11 from the demi-dogs. So basically, I think this is probably one of the iconic scenes of Stranger Things.
Especially of Season 2.
Definitely of Season 2. I think if you're thinking of imagery for this season, this has definitely got to be one of them, where she stood in front of the gate and she's using her one hand to try and close it, and then she has to really focus, get angrier, which what 8 had been telling her earlier.
Yeah, kind of almost taught her.
Yeah, focus your anger, focus your feelings, and so she uses both hands, and she actually levitates off this platform because she's using so much of her ability, so much of her power, and she does manage to close the gate.
Yes.
It is an absolutely epic epic scene. Visually, it's amazing.
But during that time,
yeah,
Steve, Dustin, they've got to get out of there before they're...
They do have to get out of there. And, I mean, all of the scenes there with, like, Steve, etc., I mean, that was great. We do actually see Dart again. And Dart gets fed chocolate by Dustin and allows them to go past. Dart doesn't attack them.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a weird thing.
He's got a memory.
Yeah. So these creatures, albeit, bad creatures, hive mind being controlled, Dart did remember Dustin and did remember Dustin was good to him. So that was... it'd be interesting to see if that's a thing, if that's something to think about going forward. We then, after the gate is closed, get a 1 month later. To kind of sum up everything that's going on, there is justice for Barb. Hawkins' lab is shut down. We have a news broadcast of everything that's happened, and we see Murray sat outside in the deck chair waving at them all as they're left being arrested. We don't know about Dr. Owen in all of this, but we do see Dr. Owen meet Hopper and hand him a birth certificate for 11.
Which...
he says, "Congratulations, Papa." He basically, 11 is now, by law, his daughter.
Yeah.
So that was kind of crazy. I think the most important thing, though, in the 1 month later, is the snowball.
The dance!
There is a dance. With all American high school anything, there has to be a dance, a prom of some sort. Lucas asks Max to dance. Dustin, who's got himself completely steved up. He's done his hair, the Farrah Fawcett spray that Steve gave him tips on. Steve drives him there. The friendship between these two is brilliant, and I love it because I know it continues into season 3, and I'm looking forward to talking about that. But Dustin's heartbroken, but he tries to play it cool and asks other girls, and they laugh him off. So Dustin's just stood there. And Nancy dances with him, which is a really, really nice scene.
Yeah, she's there, helping out.
Yeah, it's a really, really nice scene. But we basically get to see everyone there looking pretty happy. 11 shows up. She gets to go to the dance, and Mike dances with her, and they have their first kiss. All very nice. And everything's kind of cool. Everything's nice.
Kind of normal.
And then we see,
Will's
the camera.
even got someone.
Will's there, and Will's happy. And then... we see a camera angle of the outside, and then it flickers.
And it's like,
we're not
it
done.
It couldn't be normal.
We're not done yet. So, I mean, that, like I said, that is season 2. I mean, it is bullet points. It is us flying through it. These shows are designed to be reminders ahead of watching the new season. I want to thank everybody for listening. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope we've triggered a few memories from season 2. We will be back next week to talk about season 3, where we're going to be doing the same thing. And then when season 4 arrives, season 4 has been broken into 2 parts. So we're going to talk about part 1, probably about a week after it drops, because I don't see us taking a long time to watch all of the episodes somehow.
A day.
A day. Well, we'll have to see how that goes. See if we can pull an all-nighter to watch every episode. But
we will.
Until then, everybody... you take care. It's goodbye from me.
It's goodbye from me.
You go out there, ghost or not, it's a risk. We don't take risks. All right? They're stupid. And?
We're not stupid.
Thank you for listening to the Stuff and Things podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. You can find us on Facebook or online. Simply search the Stuff and Things podcast to join in our conversation every week.